There have been many stories in early church history regarding messengers that appeared around the country and converted people to the gospel. They would then send them on to the Mormon elders to receive their ordinances. Here's an example of one from Orson Pratt. This is some excerpts of a talk he gave. What do my ears hear? What do we all hear? Messengers are visiting. In the region round about, hundreds of miles apart, these messengers come to them, and they speak in their own language in great plainness, and tell them what to do. They tell them to repent of their sins, and to be baptized for the remission thereof. Tell them also to cease roaming over the country, and to cultivate the land. Tell them to go to the elders of this church and receive the ordinances under their hands. There's questions of translating beings. These stories, they used to be commonplace in the church, the early church. So that kind of asks the question, it begs the question, how many apostles are there on the earth in these latter days or at any given time? And so the answer, there have been more dispensations than one. There are more than 12. For example, John 21:13. Then went this saying abroad among the brethren, that disciple should not die. Yet Jesus said not unto him, he shall not die. But if I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee? John was an apostle in the New Testament. Here's 3 Nephi chapter 28, verse 1. And it came to pass, when Jesus had said these words, he spake unto his disciples one by one, saying unto them, what is it that ye desire of me, after that I am gone to the Father? And they all spake, save it were three, saying, we desire that after we have lived unto the age of man, that our ministry, wherein thou hast called us, may have an end, that we may speedily come unto thee in thy kingdom. And he said unto them, blessed are ye, because ye desired this thing of me. Therefore, after that ye are 72 years old, ye shall come unto me in my kingdom, and with me ye shall find rest. And when he had spoken unto them, he turned himself unto the three, and said unto them, what will ye that I should do unto you, when I am gone unto the Father? And they sorrowed in their hearts, for they durst not speak unto him the thing which they desired. And he said unto them, behold, I know your thoughts, and ye have desired the thing which John, my beloved, who was with me in my ministry, before that I was lifted up by the Jews, desired of me. Therefore, more blessed are ye, for ye shall never taste of death, but ye shall live to behold all the doings of the Father, unto the children of men, even until all things shall be fulfilled according to the will of the Father, when I shall come in my glory with the powers of heaven. And ye shall never endure the pains of death, but when I shall come in my glory, ye shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye from mortality to immortality. And then shall ye be blessed in the kingdom of my Father. And again, ye shall not have pain, while ye shall dwell in the flesh, neither sorrow, save it be for the sins of the world. And all this will I do because of the thing which ye have desired of me. For ye have desired that ye might bring the souls of men unto me, while the world shall stand. And here's an experience from a place down near Mesa, Arizona. The following experience is one of many documented accounts of translated beings administering to saints in the Western Hemisphere. And this was, as I mentioned, commonplace. In Salt Lake City in the 1930s, it's reported there were book burnings to purge some of the early church history out of libraries and things like that. But the stories were in abundance of visitors such as these men that would fit the description of either John the Revelator or the three Nephites. On the morning of the 19th of March, 1940, at about 7 o'clock, I was going out into the yard, taking care of some of the duties of the household. And upon opening the door, an elderly man stood about 4 feet from the kitchen door from which I had just come. His hair was not entirely gray, but it had streaks of gray. He was about 5 feet 11 inches in height, was not especially heavy set, but weighing about 160 pounds. He wore a beard, but no mustache, trimmed, and was tidily dressed with a dark suit. He wore a light gray overcoat of light weight. He looked very kind. His eyes were grayish blue, and he wore a light gray hat. Upon seeing him, he took off his hat and said, "Good morning, my dear. Can you spare time to fix me a bit of breakfast?" At first I thought I would say no, but he looked so kind and clean that I said, "Sure, come in," both of us walking toward the kitchen door and he following me. I set a chair before him and invited him to sit down, which he did. This being in the kitchen, I immediately started to fix breakfast for him. He sat and watched me, and soon he said, "It has been many years since I have been in this part of the Lord's vineyard." I was amazed at the growth of Mesa. I made some reply, which I do not now recall. He went on to ask, "Is the church growing rapidly?" To which I answered, "Yes, it is, especially here. My father came with the early pioneers, and I can remember as a child there were such a few, but now there are 10 wards in this stake." He said, "My dear, your father was very fortunate to have been called as one of the pioneers. I have been in Mexico for many years laboring with that branch of the church. It struck me at the time as peculiar when he called it a branch. You will live to see the day when that part of the Lord's vineyard and this part will be his brothers. I visited with the saints in California last week. The Lord is not pleased with his people there. They are living too fast. They let the real things of life slip behind while they take up the unimportant things. They are like the most of the people now. They pray with their lips and have no faith in their hearts." Continuing, he said, "The condition of the world is dreadful. In Germany, there are many of the Lord's choice people, and in no other way could the gospel be spread, only through this dreadful war." All this was said while I was preparing the meal, after which I set it down before him. While he was eating, I washed the morning's dishes. I asked him if he would have anything else, and he said, "Thank you, my dear." When I was fixing his breakfast, I said, "Do you like your eggs poached, hard, or soft?" To which he replied, "My dear, even as you have done it to the least of these, you have done it unto me." During the entire visit, I felt a very serene, peaceful, and quiet feeling. After finishing his breakfast, he arose, took his overcoat, which he put over a chair, and as he reached the door, he turned and said, "You may not think much of this coming from me, but I promise you that through your faith, you nor yours shall ever want." Before going to the door, I handed him his hat. He then said, "Good morning," and I replied, "Good morning," and he was gone. All the while, my son, Robert Schill, was in the adjoining room from the kitchen, and after the stranger had left, he immediately came into the kitchen and said, "Mom, who was that man? He was the queerest talking man I ever heard." To which I replied, "I don't know, son, but he was dressed so well kept to be asking for breakfast." We both walked out of the house, not more than 1 minute from the time he left the kitchen door, going clear to the road, which was about 300 feet from the kitchen, but could see no one. He could not be seen in any direction, the road going straight for 2 miles in either direction. I have wondered and pondered about it so much and feel assured in my own heart it was one of the three Nephites. It would have taken at least a few minutes to go to the road, and we went out immediately after he left. This incident occurred in the settlement of Lehigh, Maricopa County, Maricopa State, Arizona, on our 20-acre farm. The Latter-day Saint Church is located about 1,000 feet from our home, and the schoolhouse is about the same. Here's a story reported by this young man in April of the year 1955 is when it occurred. I was waiting for a bus one Monday morning at 3rd South and State Street. An elderly man approached me and started conversing, making statements such as, "Some people want it all," meaning they cheated others. He said, "The fools, they think it is the end when they go down in the pit." He said, "Worms turn into butterflies, there you have the resurrection." That impression was of an ugly worm limited to crawling, transformed into a beautiful butterfly which could fly in freedom. I thought it was a good comparison to mortals having something better in the resurrection. He stated he listened to the servants in the tabernacle, and it comes from their lips, not their hearts. As he left, he said, "Good luck," and I had the thought that he was one of the three Nephites. For a period of several days after this, I was anxiously hoping and praying to see this same man again, intending to invite him to dinner. The next time I saw him was during the summer. I was driving my car west on 1st South at about 4th or 5th East, and I recognized him talking to an old man in front of a rest home. I stopped my car and I walked back to him. He had the old man in good humor, as though they were joking. I asked him if I could speak to him, and he excused himself to the old man and walked west with me. He made statements like, "I like Salt Lake. You can get to any place from Salt Lake. You can get to Eureka from Salt Lake." I had the thought Eureka was a symbol of hell, for it was notorious as a wide-open mining town in its boom years, and that Salt Lake was a good place to get to hell from, or heaven. I asked him if he would come to my home for dinner, at which he said, "I don't believe I got your name." I introduced myself, and he said his name was James Farrell, and we shook hands. I gave him my address, but never saw him again until the middle of winter on Main Street and 3rd South, and I again hurried to talk to him and ask him to visit my home. About a month later, I saw him again by the Electrolux vacuum cleaner office at which I was a salesman. I again hurried and talked to him, and several days later I got a letter from him, my name addressed, but starting out, "Dear N.B.," and explaining he didn't know when he could come to my house as he was employed as a dishwasher and subject to call, working extra. He gave his address as a hotel about a block west of the post office. His letter was full of strange statements and numbers, and was the first of 13 letters. I replied to each one. The last one he wrote, he said he would be to our home on a certain evening at a certain time for dinner I had invited him to. My wife and I were very excited at the prospect of entertaining one of the three Nephites, and she prepared a very elaborate dinner. We waited and waited and waited. When he didn't show up, we enjoyed it ourselves, as we ordinarily ate quite frugally. The next day, a strange-looking old man with a cane came down our driveway as we were outside and said, "I have come to stay with you as you have asked me to." He didn't appear quite the same as the gentle old man I had seen on other occasions. He had shaved off all his hair off and had me do the same. He spent several days at our house working in the yard. One thing he had me do was saw some dead limbs off a tree to trim it. And he cut the tree limbs into a very neat little piles of twigs, at which it seemed to me it took much patience and skill. He mentioned when he first came he could enjoy food by watching others enjoying eating. I thought he meant he had come to dinner, although we didn't see him, and he enjoyed watching my wife and I enjoy the nice supper. Orson Pratt had referred to several more instances. This is the same sermon from February 7th, 1875, which opened this presentation. There is one thing which I am now about to read, which has not yet been fulfilled, and which we must fulfill before Zion is redeemed. I will read it. Behold, saith the Father, I will bring the fullness of my gospel from among them, and then I will remember my covenant which I have made unto my people, O house of Israel, and I will bring my gospel unto them. It seems that the Lord is working among that people, and that he has determined this prophecy shall be fulfilled, whether we take it in hand or not. What do my ears hear? What do we all hear? Messengers are visiting these tribes in the basin and in the region round about hundreds of miles apart. These messengers come to them, and they speak in their own language in great plainness and tell them what to do. They tell them to repent of their sins and to be baptized for the remission thereof. Tell them also to cease roaming over the country and to cultivate the land. Tell them to go to the elders of this church and receive the ordinances under their hands. Who are these messengers? Read the Book of Mormon, and you will find what God promised to do for the remnants of Joseph 1400 years ago. The Lord said when their record should come forth in the latter days that he would send his messengers to them, and among these messengers he mentioned 3 persons who lived some 1800 years ago, 3 of the 12 who were chosen on this land. The Lord made a promise to these 3 that they should administer as holy messengers in these latter days, for and in behalf of the remnants of the house of Israel, that they should be instruments in his hands in bringing these remnants to the knowledge of the truth. We hear that these messengers have come, not in one instance alone, but in many instances. Already we have heard of some 1,400 Indians, and I do not know but more, who have been baptized. Ask them why they have come so many 100 miles to find the elders of the church, and they will reply, such a person came to us, and he spoke in our language, instructed us, and told us what to do, and we have come in order to comply with his requirements. There's many other stories of translated beings appearing in relation to the gospel and converting people. There's more that we're looking for. If anyone has such a story, we'd like to collect them and present them in future presentations. Thank you for watching this. Please like and subscribe.